Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Week 8 of the Ray Esports Racing League's inaugural season presented by RaceVoice and Racer61. The past 2 weeks, we visited both the current and a former host of the United States Formula One Grand Prix, but this week, it's a little bit different. This week, we head to a little 10-turn, 2.1-mile circuit just outside of Washington, D.C., a circuit that may not have ever hosted a Grand Prix, but has hosted some of the best in the pro ranks, where many a Trans Am race was decided, as well as club racing luminaries spanning national champions like Paul Newman and Randy Canfield. It's his home track, by the way, and Tom Cruise, and even this guy that you might have heard of before, Jimmy Johnson. This week, we head to a track I like to call home, Summit Point Raceway. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and this week we've got Jim Hodgson joining me in the announce booth, and as always, Apex Racing TV's Dennis Branch is manning the controls. Tonight, we've got two great races on tap. First up, as you can see him on track right now, is going to be the Mazda MX-5s, and a little later tonight, we'll catch up with our Pro Formula Mazda drivers who had last week off. First off, welcome, Jim.
Thank you. I apologize if I just took a moment there. I was just watching a car launch directly into the air, and my heart soared as I saw that.
As the driver and the car did as well. And I'll tell you, I have seen cars launch in just that place in real life at Summit Point. So it didn't surprise me one beat. There. And so last week, Jim, we had a 3-car battle for the win at the Watkins Glen here in the MX-5 Cup. We had Ryan Maloney, we had Mitchell Peak, and we had Zach Burke. And you'll notice that those three drivers are sitting atop the timing pylon right now in qualifying. They were side by side. They were nose to tail. At one point, we had Ryan Maloney with 2 wheels in the dirt, just inches off the Armco going into the bus stop. And, Summit races very, very differently, I think, than Watkins Glen International. And so, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that same battling here. But what are you expecting tonight out of these guys?
Well, a lot of fun. To answer the question, first of all, this is kind of, you're sort of alluding to it, but I think maybe a perfect pairing of track and car between the MX-5 and this. Not the longest track in the world or the most turns, but gosh, is it fun. And just the way that it flows, I think really fits this car. So, I'm just expecting to see a lot of door-to-door action. And also, if I'm looking at the timing tower, I'm seeing just not a lot of time between the top and even the bottom. So, I think we're going to have some real heart-pounding racing tonight.
Yeah, you're seeing hundreds of seconds separating these cars. And right now, they're about 12 and a half minutes into their 15-minute qualifying session here. When they head out in just a little while, they will go out for a 20-minute race. And yeah, this 10-turn circuit, it's got really everything. And, as I mentioned, it's my home track. I've got thousands of miles, I think, and thousands of laps behind me here at Summit Point. You've got the long straightaway, the 3/4 of a mile long straight for that drag race. You've got 2 very heavy braking zones at the end of the straight here going into turn 1. Also going into turn 5 as you come through the chute, turn 4, which is the fastest corner here at Summit Point. And those braking zones, they're in very close proximity to one another. It really builds up a lot of heat in the brakes and puts a lot of strain on the car. You've got some slower corners. You've got a complex here known as the carousel, turns 6 all the way through turn 8, which is really the longest straightaway here at Summit Point, although it doesn't look like a straightaway, but the driver is constantly having to adjust. And if they get the very entry to that carousel wrong, they can actually end up destroying the next 5 turns, because it really is a track that demands consistency, and it has, as you mentioned, it has great flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I first got introduced to this car very early, probably 10 years ago when I started doing iRacing, and I made some of the very mistakes you were alluding to many, many times.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to watch here as we're watching now. And this is a driver we will definitely want to watch as the race goes on. This is Morgan Burkhardt that we're following right now in the number 40 car. He is not quite old enough to race at the real Summit Point Raceway yet. He is only 15 years old, but both of his parents, both John Burkhardt and Beth Burkhardt, they are former Mid-Atlantic Road Racing Series champions in the ITC class. And they have both raced for years at Summit Point Raceway, and they are also volunteers with the Washington, D.C. region of the SCCA. They flag there as well, and actually multi-generational. Morgan's grandparents work in both timing and scoring, and also flag for races at Summit Point Raceway as well. So we'll definitely want to watch there. But yeah, this car, rolling back to what you were saying earlier, this car is pretty much perfect for this track. Matter of fact, as we were talking before the broadcast started, it is not uncommon to see not ND Miatas, but or MX5s, but the NAs, the Washington D.C. region of the SCCA, commonly for its Mars races, has 50-car SSM showroom spec Miata fields still to this day. All right, so the checkered flag is out on qualifying. Last flying laps will count. As you can see, sitting at the top of the leaderboard right now is Zach Burke with Ryan Maloney and Mitchell Peak. And as we were talking to lead off the show, Burke, Peak took first and second at Watkins Glen just last week. Now, we also talked about Ryan Maloney. Unfortunately, on the very last lap, he ran out of gas and fell like a stone. Stevie Ray, who when we talk about Ray's eSports, he can't manage. And there's Stevie Ray right there in the number 11 car. He managed to take the last step on the podium, finishing third. Charles Bailey was fourth, and George Fike was fifth. And if we take a quick look at the point standings, we'll do this now before we jump to the starting grid. Zach Burke is currently your leader in the points right now with 102. Actually, let's reframe that a little bit. He is not the leader in the points right now. It is a tie right now with 102 points. Zach Burke and Mitchell Peak, they are your co-leaders right now after I believe 5 rounds in the Ray Esports Spring League. Ryan Maloney is sitting third in the points with 84 points. Then Charles Bailey, George Fike fifth, Greg Mack sixth, Tyler Campbell, Stevie Ray is running eighth in the points right now, Michael Kelter ninth, and Miles Crabb rounding out the top 10. All right, so Jim, it looks like we're ready to start running down the grid here for our first race. You want to go and take that for me?
Sure thing. Here it comes in P1. It will be Zach Burke with Ryan Maloney for company on row 1, followed by Mitchell Peak and Richard Spicer on row 2. On row 3, we have, of course, Morgan Burkhardt, who's joined by Jordy Fike in P6, and they are followed by Greg Mack and Jameson Huffman in P8. And next, there's Charles Bailey and Greg Brockway in 9th and 10th, and in 11th and 12th, it is Greg Hubler and Sean Hayes. Thank you so much for all your hard work on the series, Greg Hubler. In 13th, it is, of course, Cooper Lilly, followed by Stevie Ray, and thank him, of course, for his hard work as well. They are followed by Charles Vaccaro and Andrew Wozencroft in 15th and 16th. In 17th, it's Samuel Tully, followed by Bryce Evans, who is followed by Mark Kruger, Jeff Miner, Joe Camilleri, Mike James, Peter Rolfe, and Joaquin Effinger, who is followed by, let's see, yes, it's Todd Martin, who's joined by Don Manning, followed by John A. Casey, Wayne A. Buttermore, and last, but far from least, number 1 in our hearts, Bobby Blankenship III. Looking forward to a great race.
Yeah, it should be a great 20-minute sprint as the cars get ready. And taking a look here, they should be rolling off on their pace lap here in just a moment. We've got the pace car sitting up front, that beautiful Porsche 911. Now, when we are rolling down the grid here, of course, we've talked about Burke, Peak, and Maloney. They are definitely, at least in my book, favorites to win. And we mentioned Morgan Burkhardt who's going to be starting 5th. Starting right near him is Jameson Huffman. Now, whereas we mentioned Burkhardt is 15 years old, Huffman just turned 14 years old and actually grew up racing go-karts with Morgan Burkhardt. Those two drivers are both teammates. Jameson's father, who also runs in iRacing, runs a Formula Enterprises 2 car. This is his home track as well. So both of these drivers, both Burkhardt and Huffman, even though they may not have any time with the real cars behind the wheel here at Summit Point Raceway, they definitely have a lot of time in iRacing, and they're looking to do their parents very, very proud. As we've got the pace car leading the field now through turn number 2 and making that short run down to turn 3. Another note here, Ryan Maloney, the number 15 car, he's driving that Olsen Invest car. Alan Olsen from Olsen Invest, former board of directors member for the Washington, D.C. region of the SCCA, and also has a ton of time here. I should see him hopefully in about a week. We've got a driver's school at Summit Point, and Ryan Maloney definitely doing him proud. Hopefully here Ryan will have enough fuel in that car to make it the entire 20 minutes. It was really a shame when they came out of the bus stop last week at Watkins Glen after that just a barn burner of a race, Jim, and you could tell that as they came out of the bus stop, that car just had no more pace, and he had to limp the car around, and I think he brought the car home in like 22nd or 23rd position there after fighting so hard.
Well, I've certainly found my car in the wall at that point, if not in the boot, or well, pretty much any place around the track, actually.
Yeah, and that's one of the things here. You go to Summit Point, you race Summit Point here on iRacing, and you don't have the blue Armco ringing the track 2 inches off. It is still a track that can absolutely bite you. You've got the main gravel traps here at turn 10, obviously the exit of turn 1, rounding turns 1 and turn 2, and then there is also that gravel trap at turn 3, but it would not be out of the realm to see drivers push just a little too hard, get that threshold braking wrong going down the hill through the chute and into turn 5. So we'll have to watch that as our pole sitter, Zach Burke, brings the field around turn 10 onto the front straight. And we are racing here at Summit Point as the drivers go over that little crest and start to make their way down. We have the 13 of Burke. We've got Mitchell Peak in the 56 car, the 2 teammates now breaking out nose to tail. And then it is now, for a moment there, 4 cars wide going down into turn 1, under braking. We've got Ryan Maloney to the left, drivers left. Then we've got Richard Spicer, drivers right. Oh, popping the curb there for the 221 car. Charles Vaccaro, he gets the car back underway. But so far, clean running here as our drivers make their way down that short chute into turn number 3. Key to a race here, carrying speed through turn 3 and not lifting as you come down the hill going into turn 5. We've got Mitchell Peak and Zach Burke with Maloney pressing there, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a tight pack. You can't even call this a group of leaders because the snake goes all the way back. That's got to be 20 cars, just nose to tail. But this lead group of maybe 4 cars, as you were saying, Pete, Burke, Maloney, and Spicer, all dicing it up, trying to get through. There's a car, the 2 wide, that looks like Tully there, battling alongside some other cars. But I am loving this nose to tail racing. This is what MX-5 Miata racing is all about.
Yeah, where every race in MX-5, it gets run like a sprint race where it's nose to tail. The cars depend on the draft very heavily here. Oh, getting loose on the exit of turn 10. Zach Burke steps out just a little bit. Let's see if Ryan Maloney can take advantage of it. He's now up side by side with him. Looks like we have some more tire smoke coming out of turn 10. We'll try and pick up who that car is. But Maloney now, Jim, he's got position going down into turn 1.
Yeah, he had to try to capitalize on that. Let's see if he's able to make it stick. It looks like he's going to do well, and that looked like a little tap between Spicer and Burke there, possibly in turn 1, but everybody through safely. I think Maloney had to try to capitalize on that, didn't he? But Burke will surely come back at him.
Yeah, and you can see now Spicer, he's got the inside line. He's got position going into turn 3. Does he manage to hold on? Yeah, he manages to hold on the number 89 car, but Morgan Burkhardt makes up a position, move him now up to 4th as they roll down the chute, about 115, 120 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes for turn 5. And as they roll through here, still nose to tail. So you have obviously the long straightaway here where the draft is absolutely key. And so you don't want to, if you're a driver, you don't want to be battling it out going into that last corner, that turn 10, bringing you onto the front straight. But this section of the course, the carousel, it is all about smoothness. It's all about rhythm, as we mentioned in the open. If you turn in a little bit early on one corner, you're going to get caught out for the next 3. So here you're already seeing a little bit of separation here as the 62, or actually the 062 of Greg Brockway, has lost the scent of Sean Hayes in the number 94, fallen a little bit back. So we now have what was just one large pack is now a 2-car pack as we've got our leaders coming down into turn 1, Jim.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to have a change of the lead there. That was a little bit of a caparoo under braking into 1. And Peak and Maloney managed to keep it on the track was Burke hard behind. I think I saw in the rear as well Stevie Ray going for a change on Brockway. I think he was able to make that Vic Ray in the number 11 machine was able to get around the number 62 or 062 if you prefer. But look how tight these leaders are on one another, as you said, in this very challenging part of the track.
Now, when we were interviewing, and it really close there as they come down into turn 5, you know, the one thing here, and it's pretty accurate in iRacing, most of the curbing here at Summit Point Raceway, at least when the track was scanned in, and it is one of the oldest tracks in iRacing. I believe it was scanned in around before 2007. I think it was like around 2005 or thereabouts. But most of the curbing here at Summit in the game, you can roll over it and it is not a problem. The one curb that you cannot get up on is the curb at the apex of turn 4 going down through the chute, because it will launch your car all the way down the hill. Now, Jim, talking in when we interviewed Ryan Maloney last week after the MX5 race at the Glen, you know, the one thing that he mentioned was, you know, it was really an uphill battle for him because, you know, he was dealing with the two teammates. He was dealing with Burke and Peak. And, you know, he always thought that he was on the back foot because he thought that, you know, the other two drivers were, you know, were working as a team and making it a lot more difficult. But now that he's out in the lead, I think things are going to be a little bit different for him.
Well, they say you never drive faster than when you're in P2. I'm not sure that I believe that, but I have heard it said. And I know that I'm much more nervous when I'm leading than when I'm following. So, but if Maloney can make some work happen while he's out in front, I think that'll be undeniable for sure.
All right, here we go as they make their way through turn 5, and Burkhardt now has Richard Spicer, the 65 car, the Bud Light car, right on his tail. Right behind him, we've got Jordy Fike sitting in 6th, and then Burkhardt's teammate, Jameson Huffman, right now sitting in 7th position as they start to make their way through. There he is, the number 89 car, as they come up and underneath the bridge. And it's always interesting here watching these racers and the lines they take, and you can kind of tell, Jim, you know, who races here often and who doesn't. You know, when you first get into iRacing, obviously it's one of the free tracks and a lot of folks get on and do it, but you know, little hint for those guys up at the front: if you go under the center of the bridge, you knock about 10 feet off your run down to turn 1. All right, as our leaders now go into turn 1, and there, or probably as you go into turn 10 and going into turn 1, we've got the two teammates, Burke and Peak, and they tried to go around the outside. It's a long way and kind of hard to do it. You don't have a lot of grip there on the outside of turns 1 and 2, and Maloney able to hold them off. So look at that! Ooh, as Maloney straightens out the exit at turn 3.
Wow, that was I mean, I would call that an off at turn 3 there. I've done that a time or two, and you usually end up shooting back across the track and having a crash driver's left. So I think Maloney did a great job to keep that under control, even if it wasn't necessarily a great job getting into that position to begin with. But it looked to me like Burke maybe at turn 1 there just kind of outbraked himself. He did try to go around the outside, but I think he could have used maybe 2 or 3 meters fewer sort of braking distance on that. That might have helped a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that kind of threw Mitchell Peak off his game a little bit as well. And here as our drivers make it through. Now going back to that off that Maloney had, you know, the one thing that we teach drivers at Summit is if you go off there, just straighten up the wheel and the track comes back to you. And I think Ryan actually has some seat time at Summit and used it to his advantage now, as we've got the 13 as Zach Burke tries to make a move to the inside, throws Maloney off his game, and let's see if he can sneak underneath him. No, it looks like Maloney covers pretty darn well as they come out of turn 1 into turn 2, but Spicer now, Jim, makes his way around the 09 car of Jordy Fike, and then the question is, what happened to Morgan Burkhardt? Because Burkhardt now drops all the way back to 7th.
Well, I think he had a little off at 1. Let's see what happened here if he maybe had a little bit of help or just managed to get there on his own. But just looking at the way these cars move around under braking, they are on the absolute threshold, aren't they?
They certainly are. Yep, and there you go. Morgan Burkhardt, he drops, goes in on the outside. He had Spicer coming in underneath him and runs a little wide. Not a lot of grip on the outside, as we mentioned there, and puts 2 wheels off into the dirt. Doesn't put the car around and manages to recover, but loses 2 positions in the meantime. All right, so let's watch our leaders now as they come up out of turn 9, underneath the bridge, and over towards turn 10. And again, this is not a place where you would typically see drivers attempting a pass. It is the second fastest corner on the track, and obviously, Jim, you want to carry as much speed as you can into this very long straightaway.
I am loving seeing Maloney just take that sort of defensive line, and these cars are so close to him that the entire snake of cars followed him into that line.
Yeah, exactly. And so we see the two teammates, the 56 of Peak and then the 13 of Burke, side by side going into turn 1. We'll see what happens as they come down to turn 3 as the 56 car stays to the inside. Does he have a position up? Does he have the ground on Maloney? He does not, as Maloney once again steps wide but manages to hold on to the position as they roll down the hill, getting set up for that hard braking turn 5.
It looks to me like Spicer's benefiting a little bit here because of all this battling. Spicer and Fight kind of waiting in the wings there. If anything untoward should happen between these three leaders who are battling so hard, they'll be ready to pounce.
All right, as they make their way into the carousel here, once again, reminder to everybody that this race is brought to you by Driver61. They have some great racing packages, actually driver instruction packages. To find out more about them, go to driver61.com. As we watch our pack now making their way out of turn 9, up the hill and under the bridge towards turn 10. There we go. We're following the number the number 80 car, Andrew Wozencroft, as he comes around out of turn 10, sitting right underneath the 62 or the 062 of Greg Brockway. That is the battle for 13th. Just ahead of them up the road, the 311 of Bryce Edwards. And it looks like they're pretty much right on the edge of the draft there as they come into braking over at turn 1.
Ooh, that was a weird little move there from the 62.
Yeah.
I think we might have dipped just a touch of the wheel into the grass. As we look here at our leaders again, it looks to me like Stevie Ray is kind of running all by himself. He managed to make a couple of moves. He's gained 3 places so far in the race, but now he's kind of he's an island unto himself, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a couple seconds margin ahead of him and a couple seconds behind him. As we take a look here with our leaders making their way through the carousel, a beautiful nose cam from the 13 car of actually, I believe that is not the 13 car. That is now the 65 car of Richard Spicer, who came underneath Zach Burke going into turn 6A. So we have a new third place runner. That is the 65. He's split up the two teammates of Peak and Burke, and that may be something that our leader Maloney is very happy to see as they come onto the front straight.
Could very well be. I mean, Burke was certainly doing his best to try to gain those positions. Burke now, at this point, the race has lost 3 positions since we've been running. Of course, we have plenty of racing to go, and he will try to take one of those back, won't he?
Yeah, and you can see the car dancing around. Yeah, dancing around, as you said. Spicer getting up on the curbing at the apex of turn 1, but Zach Burke now retakes that third position as we've got the two teammates, Burkhardt and Huffman, in the All Sports Racing machines, coming down side by side going into 3, and it looks like Huffman going to make a pass on his teammate Burkhardt to take over 6th position.
Oh dear. Manages to get it back together. As you say, the track comes back to you if you should have a little bit of an off there. And now, do my eyes deceive me, or does Maloney have himself the littlest of gaps here?
Well, he's stretched it out. I think a little bit of that might have been the battling that we saw before between Spicer and Burke, but yeah, he's now opened up all of about 2.5, maybe 3 car lengths on Mitchell Peak and that number 56 machine as they come out of turn 9, and again, hugging the track all the way drivers left. Not the way I would do it, but it does put you in a good position for braking, that little brush of a brake that you take over at turn 10. All right, let's take a look here now. The Greg Brockway, the 62 car. We had the 80 of Wozencroft as well. And I'll bet you, because we're watching that replay, that we got something up. And there you go. Wozencroft and Brockway get into one another at turn 6A. Right behind them, we had the 24 car who also pulled out to try and avoid. That was Sam Tully. But looks like they have now all gotten back underway.
Now, what has happened to Spicer?
Yeah, let's take a look here. As Spicer now has dropped back to 8th. Here we go. I bet you're going to find out right now as they come now down under, setting up for turn number 1. We have the 13 of Burke moves to the inside. Let's see what Spicer does. Hard on the, just outbraked himself. Looks like Jim going into turn 1 and took a ride in the gravel trap.
Well, it has happened to many.
Yes.
Many of the greats have done that very same thing, so nothing to feel bad about.
No, not at all. And the one difference is there as the number 63 car of, I believe, Charles Bailey gets back underway after having gone off on the outside of turn 5. I'll tell you, in real life, the gravel trap at turn 1, pretty darn deep. I don't think Spicer would have managed to just drive it out as you can in iRacing, but he manages to get the car back underway. And as we mentioned, he is running now down in 6th position here as we've got the teammates side by side. Peak and Burke. We've got Burke to the outside. We've got Peak drivers left to the inside. Cannot quite get close enough to his teammate to affect the pass. Gets back in line, and they make their way down now. Look at this. It's Spicer trying to get back around Morgan Burkhardt. And these two drivers, very. Burkhardt a little defensive going into turn 1, which you would expect. Those two drivers, they had a very good race last week at Watkins Glen. Actually, Huffman had a great race with Spicer for about the last, I'd say the last 3/4 of the Spec Racer Ford race. Spicer actually taking the win in Spec Racer Ford. Huffman finishing 3rd last week in SRF. Here as we follow through, and as they come now down into turn 5, you can see a little later, a little harder on the brakes is Spicer, but Burkhardt there dictating the pace as they enter the carousel. And just take a look at how that car slides around going through 6A and 6B.
Well, it looks to me like Hubler might have had to dip into the pit, not sure why, but he might have gotten a drive-through or stop and go, something along those lines. Here is your race lead. As you can see, Burke and Peak now all over the rear of Maloney's car, and he's going to get a tap in the rear and barely managed to control the car on the straight. Wow. Yeah,
well, that was something there as they both went to the dirt. Maloney manages to gather the car back up. He holds on. He keeps that inside position going into turn 1 and puts the car in just the right place. Keeps him from keeps Burke from moving down to the inside and sneaking underneath him. Now you notice that the number 2 of Greg Mack, our leaders have now lapped him. I believe Greg Mack spent some time in the pits as well. He just moved over, let our leaders go by. But obviously now that gap that Ryan Maloney had over our 2nd and 3rd place runners, Burke and Peak, it is now gone as they come now down into turn 6A. And yeah, I was a little surprised by that, Jim. I didn't expect to see the little tap on the front straight there as Maloney tried to cover the speed differential that Burke had from the draft.
Yeah, well, these things can certainly happen, and certainly if you have sort of a miscommunication between what you consider the car in front's sort of car body language, if you will, to be. Burke appears to at least feel, if not, he just by the way he's driving the car, he seems to me to feel like he's got pace on Maloney. He just needs a moment. Just the way he's staying all over Maloney's rear deck lid here, kind of trying to force an error. Let's see if he tries to go around the outside. He will. Let's see what happens under braking.
All right, it looks though as we see the noses dip down that they both get on the brakes just about the same time. Now, of course, when you're sitting on the inside line there, you're kind of dictating when the driver on the outside can turn in, and Maloney manages to hold off Burke once again with Peak sitting back in 3rd as we watch a little further back. Again, this is the battle for 5th right now with Morgan Burkhardt and Richard Spicer, and Burkhardt also sitting on the inside manages to hold Spicer off for one more lap.
I think Spicer might have had a chance around the outside on that one, but he just put a little bit of rubber into the grass, and it compromised his braking there into 1. Just at the moment, you wouldn't want to have something like that happen.
No, certainly not the opportune moment to have that happen. As our leaders continuing to come up on some slower traffic here, and as they make the run through, and we can see there's not just the one car ahead, which is Bobby Blankenship, who now pulls his car over, but there are a few more coming out of turn 10 as well. As Blankenship pulls over, our top 3 drivers, Maloney, Burke, and Peak, all managed to get on by before braking for turn 10, and they are on their way down the front straight here. And it looks like they probably won't come up on that traffic until they come down towards turn 5. As once again, Ryan Maloney moves to the inside, moves drivers right to hold off the advances of Zach Burke. And as they go into turn 1, once again, holding Burke off. All right, let's take a look here now, Jim, as that battle continues on with Burkhardt and Spicer.
Yeah, it sure does. You think at some point Spicer's going to say to himself, okay, I've tried this a couple of times. Going around the outside is not going to work. He seems to be getting a little bit of a better run onto the start straight, or the start-finish straight, which allows him to have maybe a half a car length into the braking zone, but he's just got to try something else. And I'm not sure what it could be, except maybe that braking zone into 5.
Yeah, you know, and the common thing, we haven't watched so much for on the cars entries in the 5, but a common thing that I've noticed here with a lot of these drivers is they will come down right of center. They'll come down driver's right, and it leaves a huge gaping hole to come underneath them going into turn 5. So something for these drivers to watch out for as our leaders now make their way out of turn 10, and they've gone and dispatched some of those slower cars. They got around Greg Hubler's number 22 as they came into turn 10. And once again, Ryan Maloney now moves to the inside. He's got that traffic up ahead that he might be able to use that orange car of Peter Rolfe as a pick. But no, side by side, we have contact between our two leaders, Jim.
Yeah, Burke really just got his elbows out and muscled his way through there. I thought that was going to go a much different way, as I think you must have as well. But we'll see if Burke is able to make it stick as we go through the chute and into 5, as you say. Oh, no, they've touched into 3. Will Maloney be able to save it this time? He just about does. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he saves it, but he loses 2 positions in the process. Again, contact between Zach Burke and Ryan Maloney. Burke got a little loose, but got the car back underway, and it looks like Maloney now having lots of issues getting that car underneath him. I wonder if there's maybe a little bit of damage there to the left front.
Always possible. And, you know, I always have trouble after I have an incident like that. If I'm leading and I feel like somebody kind of got their elbows out with me, I tend to get a little mad, I'll be honest. Yeah. And when I'm mad, I am not a good driver.
Yeah, it takes a little while for that adrenaline to just drop down just the smallest of amounts so you can get back and get your wits back above you. As looks like Wayne, I believe that was Buttermore Todd Martin, who just took to the pit lane just ahead of our leaders here, as we now have the 2 teammates, Burke and Peak, coming down the front straight side by side. Mitchell Peak, the driver's right. He's got the inside position going into turn 1, but as he pulled over, I think, look at this. Oh, well, look at this. Did we not notice that the race actually ended? I completely lost track of the 20th and final minute of this race, and looks like Zach Burke is going to take the win in the 13. Mitchell Peak finishes 2nd, and that one is not going to go on my resume, that's for sure. And Ryan Maloney takes home 3rd.
Well, I think it could be forgiven. I mean, it was pretty much wall-to-wall excitement. It feels like it went by in just 5 minutes, not 20.
Exactly, it did. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that was very quick. And when I started seeing cars banging into one another, I thought maybe they got, maybe that aggression got ramped up. But no, that was actually just the end of the race. So Zach Burke takes the win. Mitchell Peak will finish 2nd. Ryan Maloney 3rd. Jordy Fike will finish 4th, ahead of Richard Spicer, Morgan Burkhardt, and Jamison Huffman. Good run for Jordy Fike. He made up 2 positions overall in this race. Stevie Ray will finish 8th. Bryce Evans finishes 9th. Mark Kruger rounds out the top 10. All right, so let's take a look and see. Yeah, let's bring in Mitchell Peak, who finished 2nd. Jim, you want to talk to Mitchell?
Sure, absolutely. Mitchell, how are you? How was your race?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. That was something out there tonight. My, oh my, was it ever feisty up at the front.
Yeah, it really was. So you and Burke traded places a couple of times. Are you guys in communication with one another, or is that like a wink and a nod type of thing, or how did that go?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us on the same team that are running in this league. It's myself and Zach and Greg Mack, Greg Brockway, and Jordy Fike. So we're all on a race comms together. So it really helps out for race strategy and knowing who's around and incidents that are coming up and stuff. So The plan tonight, just like last week, was, run up front with Zach, trade places a little bit. If we weren't in the lead, who do we think is the faster of the two of us to go and track down the leader? And with, I think, 4 or 5 to go, I let Zach go and try to track down Ryan. And then, man, oh man, were they battling.
Yeah, they really were. He was Burke was all over Maloney. I'm sure we'll hear more about that, but a great finish there. So the race kind of developed according to your plan, didn't it?
Yeah, my plan when I couldn't track down Ryan was just to sit back and see what happened with the two guys in front. I was actually running a clean race. I finished with a 0x, so there's 3 bonus points available for that. So, seeing them bang doors wasn't the worst situation for me, and almost had enough for Zach at the end. I think the end of the race there was just half a car length, just under 0.05 seconds. So almost got to him, but it was a good run. Happy with P2.
Yeah, it was exactly 0.05. There's, I mean, that's what, maybe like a layer of paint on the front of the car. So,
Yeah,
I'm sure you would rather have the P1 finish, but you can't be upset with P2.
can't be upset with P2, but I am still looking for that first race win in this series. So to miss out by that little amount, it's a little bittersweet, but good race finish, and I had a lot of fun out there tonight.
Well, just having seen you drive tonight, I'm sure it's out there for you, buddy. No worries about that.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish. That is Mitchell Peak. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me, guys. Hope to talk to you again next week.
You bet.
Yeah, and Jim, Ryan, or pardon me, Mitchell really had a good point there. You get 25 points for the win, you get 21 for second, which is what he picked up, but then he also picked up those 3 bonus points. So he's still going to be 1 point back from his teammate in the overall standings going into the next race weekend. But way to maximize those points and not suffer too bad from finishing in second. All right, so next up we have Ryan Maloney. Ryan, of course, finishing just after having led that race, finished just off the podium. Ryan, how you doing this evening? How was your race?
It was good until just people can't control the cars, I guess. I don't really know what happened going down into one. I mean, seems like it just turned into me, but
Yeah, it looked like it got a little rough and tumble there for the first couple corners on that final lap going into turn 1 and again over in turn 3. So obviously we saw the close racing that you guys had at the Glen last week. Didn't see the contact at the Glen, but what was your strategy this weekend, or probably this week going in? I know last week you talked about the challenges of having to basically be the lone gunfighter against those 2 teammates.
I do pretty well at Summit, so I was just trying to get out front and just try to lead as many laps as possible. Almost broke the draft at one point, but they just barely hung on, so that's what I get for not pulling away.
Yeah, it looked like you had the gap there for a little while, and the long straight at Summit. Obviously, it's hard to maintain that if they're even just barely in the draft. They can get back up to you.
Yeah.
All right. So, are you going to be running? Are you going to be running with us in the Pro Mazdas a little later this evening?
No, I will not be.
All right. So then, hopefully, we'll see you either, probably not in Pro Mazda next week, but hopefully we'll see you either next week at Laguna Seca and Spec Racer Fords, or of course we've got the championship in 2 weeks at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, Ryan Maloney, hopefully we'll see you then.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go. That is Ryan Maloney. He finished second tonight, or probably he finished in third tonight. We're going to take a quick little break. We're going to get set up for our next race, which is the Pro Formula Mazdas presented by RaceVoice. You are watching the Ray Esports Racing League presented by RaceVoice and Racer61. We'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
All right, and we are back with the Ray Esports Racing League from Summit Point Raceway, brought to you by Driver61, and this race coming up by RaceVoice. And we have the 3 different classes that run with the Ray Esports Racing League. Off this week is Spec Racer Ford. Now, of course, they did race last week at Watkins Glen. Just to recap, Richard Spicer, who we just saw put on a great show here in Mazda MX-5s. He took the win last week at the Glen with Miles Crabb finishing second, and I think we'll see Miles tonight here in the Pro Formula Mazdas. Jameson Huffman, who we watched in Mazda MX-5, took the last step on the podium. Then we had Zach Burke, Jeff Miner, Greg Mack, Steve Ray, Andrew Wozencroft, Joaquin Effinger, and Bryce Evans rounding out the top 10 at Watkins Glen. And if we go and take a look at the point standings for Spec Racer Ford after 5 weeks, sitting atop the leaderboard is Caleb Patry here with 3 wins out of those 5 races. He's got 108 points. Then Zach Burke sitting second with 93. Miles Crabb with 87. Greg Mack, Steve Ray, then Jeff Miner, Chad Griffith, Bryce Evans, Jameson Huffman, and Justin Clordy are tied for 9th. So that is where we stand. Again, they will be back with us next week when we go to Laguna Seca. But we've got qualifying underway right now. Jim, we're about 5 minutes in, about a third of the way through this 15-minute qualifying session. And I don't know if I'm hoping that it'll be as exciting here in Pro Formula Mazda. I guarantee if we have the elbows out and we have the RG-bargy here in Pro Formula Mazda, it'll probably end up very, very differently than it did in Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, you can't door bang if you don't have any doors, especially if if you touch wheels in one of these open wheel cars. Things do happen. People go flying in the air and whatnot. But I have a soft spot in my heart for these cars. They've got a great, I'm dating myself. I am, of course, a grumpy old man, but I just love the sort of vintage, old school Formula feel of these cars. Yeah. They just look great.
Yeah, they kind of have that, kind of a bit of the Formula Continental, F1600 type of look to them. You don't have the huge wings on them. You don't have the huge side pods, but certainly the aero plays a part in how they make their times and how they make their speed around a course here. Certainly in the slower corners, it's definitely going to be helpful here as we take a look right now at the leaderboard with, again, about 7 minutes into, so just about halfway through this 15-minute qualifying session, sitting at the top of the leaderboard. We talked about him just a moment ago, Miles Crabb in the number 31 car, and he is currently your fastest driver on track with a 106 flat. 11 hundredths of a second off of that time is Dan Tilly, currently second fastest. As we have a driver rolling off track there. Then we've got Dylan Christie, our third fastest driver in the number 22, and he is only 12 hundredths of a second off of the next driver. Then we've got Evan Raxton, Andrew Abbott. It looks like we've had a couple of changes. Oh, somebody goes flying off there over at turn 3, came right across the track. Let's see if we could pick up who that was.
I think that might have been Abbott.
I think you're right.
Well, got himself a new car, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. Just as long as he doesn't do that after the green flag flies, he'll be just fine. But yeah, that was some speed that he was carrying through there. Yeah, and matter of fact, that was Andrew Abbott that had that off. He's currently sitting 5th on the leaderboard. Needless to say, he aborted that lap. Andrew races a Formula V in real life, and this is a slightly different form. Maybe wouldn't have had as much time to react there. There we have the number 89 car of Jameson Huffman. Again, we saw him on track just a little bit earlier, Mazda MX-5. But Jim, we were talking when we were introducing Jameson in that MX-5 race. I mentioned his father, Justin Huffman, who is on track in the number 223 car. And actually, Jameson and son and father, Justin, currently running 9th and 10th here provisionally in qualifying.
Cool. My dad did not care about cars at all, so I'm jealous.
Well, this is actually Justin races a Formula Enterprises car, actually now an FE2 car, which is a spec series with, I believe, Mazda MZR motors in them. And as far as the setup goes, I would suspect very similar to what he has in this Pro Formula Mazda.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I'm certainly no expert about those cars, but you mentioned Formula Vs. I do like those as well. I have a dream of building one of those one day, but just haven't been out back and haven't given the money tree a shake. So.
Although Formula V, one of the least expensive Formula classes that you can get in, at least in club racing, still built off of the 1.3 liter VW Beetle motors. They still use, for the most part, the Beetle front suspensions to them. Just recently, they've now moved over and have allowed disc brakes, but they had been running drums in all 4 corners up until the last couple of years. As basic can be when it comes to Formula car racing. As we're on board right now with Andrew Wozencroft, the number 80 car. We saw Andrew in that earlier race, had that unfortunate incident down in the carousel. I'm sure he's looking for a much better race here in race 2 with the Pro Mazdas.
You know, I'm looking at the timing tower here, and I'm seeing half of the field sharing the 106s. So that says to me, we're going to see quite a good race here. We could have quite a battle at the lead of the race.
Yeah, matter of fact, as you mentioned, all the way up through the top 9 drivers, all in the 106s. Miles Crabb, our provisional pole sitter, at a 106 flat. We'll put it at a 105.996 as we have on the timing tower there. But going all the way down into now 10th with Jamison Huffman at a 106.96. So, you know, just a second separating our top 10 drivers here in qualifying. Oh, as Greg Mack puts in a little opposite lock there. Drift King Greg Mack making his way around turn 5 here. Was that Mack? No, I'm sorry. That was Miles Crabb, our provisional pole sitter with the four-wheel drift through turn 5.
Yeah, well, it's just wanted us to get a good look at the side of the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, gotta show off the sponsors as you come through there. Yeah, I have a buddy. His name is Matt Yip. Used to race an ITA Volkswagen Golf, and we've got video of him doing the exact same thing through turn 5. I'd say probably around 15 years ago, but you know, of course, a little more spectacular and stellar in the fact that it was a front-wheel drive car, and he was able to power through that thing with opposite lock the whole way and get through there. And there's a lot more room on the side of the car for sponsors than there is on one of these Pro Mazdas.
Yeah, that's going to be a great reason to wash the old fire suit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's take a look here. We've got Dylan Christie making his way through turn number 3, and Christie currently running 3rd in the order with a fast lap of a 106.28. That is all of about 17 thousandths of a second off of Satilli. Dylan Christie running this year in USF 2000, and so obviously looking to boost his skills behind the wheel of Formula cars when he can't be on track in the real car.
Yeah, I think a lot of people all over the place are just chomping at the bit, ready to get back out there. But hopefully that this has become, you know, I'm hoping that more people have sort of learned that this is a great, you know, cross-training almost, and will stay with us and keep racing.
And there's Andrew Abbott having a few more problems finding the black stuff there coming out of turn 10. He's going to reset and I'm sure go to take another lap. He is currently sitting 5th in the order. Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of people came on board and started running just about this time last year when everything started shutting down. But yeah, as I think we found, is a lot of these drivers have found that you know, it's not just a substitute for the real thing. I mean, it is in essence the real thing, and it allows you not only to keep your skills up, but there is great competition to be found here in the virtual world as well.
Yeah, I think some guys are going to get back in their cars and finally get back out on track here in a couple of weeks, and maybe surprise themselves with a couple of lap times.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, and I know as I'm going to be heading down for an event at Road Atlanta in I'm going to be at Road Atlanta in 2 weeks. I don't even remember where I'm going anymore. That I would suspect and know that a number of the drivers that are entered there have been racing online. Some of them with the Ray eSports, some of them with the SCCA Foundation Leagues, and a number of different series that you find online. And I would suspect that, especially given that Road Atlanta is raced so heavily and so often here on iRacing, that they're going to find either that the drop-off in the winter hasn't been so bad, or they may have picked up quite a bit of time since the last time they were at that track.
I'm just riding on board here with Rex, and he's doing a great job of getting around the track. I'm loving the look of this line. I hope it could pay off for him. He's got just about 30 seconds to try to improve upon his previous time, and not much room between him. He could pull another 4100ths out and find himself at the top of the timing tower. Let's see how he does.
And he is going to be coming down the front straight here just as the checkered flag is going to be coming out on the session. And Evan Rackison, he is going to finish up here 4th fastest with a lap time of a 106.05. 1:58.62. That was about 2/10 off his fastest lap of the session. All right, so as we have our last cars making their way around and finishing qualifying here, let's take a quick look. As I mentioned, the Pro Mazdas, they did not race last week. The last time we saw them was 2 weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas. Taking the win was Dan Sattilli. Finishing second was Dylan Christie. Miles Crabb finished third. Evan Rackison finished fourth. And Andrew Abbott rounded out the top 5. And quickly here, as we get ready, and these cars are going to be gridding up in just a moment, let's take a look at the point standings as they currently stand after 4 weeks in the Pro Mazdas. Sitting atop the leaderboard right now with 89 points is Dylan Christie. He has 1 win. Evan Rackison, who we were just watching a few moments ago, is currently sitting second in the points with 88, with 2 wins out of 4 races. Dan Sattilli is sitting third with 82 points, then Zach Burke fourth. Both the 2 brothers, Andrew and Brandon Abbott, 5th and 6th. Tyler Campbell 7th. Miles Crabb 8th. Justin Huffman 9th. And Stevie Ray, he is sitting in 10th in Pro Mazda.
Well done, Stevie Ray.
There you go. All right, we're watching Joaquin Effinger, who I believe is the very last car out on track. He takes the car to the pit lane, hits the magnetic rock coming through pit in there at Summit Point. Well, actually, I've never seen anybody hit that rock in real life, but Joaquin got it. And we are getting ready to rumble here. This race, of course, brought to you by RaceVoice. Great product that they offer in the real world. Goes and pulls data. It's directly from Motec data acquisition systems or AIM data acquisition systems. It will let you know in your ear tips to what you can do to not increase your lap times, to drop your lap times, and basically gives you real-time feedback as to what kind of data is being picked up by the system. They also have a similar product for the sim world as well. You can find out more at www.racevoice.com. All right, so Jim, why don't we go? We'll start to run down the starting grid here for Pro Mazda.
You bet. It is, of course, Miles Crabb in P1, who's got Daniel Sattilli for company on row 1 in P2. They are followed on row 2 by Dylan Christie and Evan Rackison in 3 and 4. In 5, of course, Andrew Abbott, who's got Tyler Campbell for company, and they are ahead of Justin Huffman and Zach Burke in 7th and 8th. Brandon Abbott joins Jameson Huffman. They are in 9th and 10th, and Stevie Ray is in 11th, joined by Jeff Miner in 12th. Just behind them, we have Joaquin Effinger in 13th, who's got Andrew Wozencroft for company, and they are ahead of Peter Rolfe and Wayne A. Buttermore in 15th and 16th. In P17, it's Russ Lundberg, who's got Greg Mack for company, and Charles Vaccaro is in P19th and ready to run.
All right, there we go. And Jim, you might know Russ Lundberg. Russ works as a flag marshal down at Road Atlanta quite often, and he has been obviously spending a lot of time here with the Ray Esports Racing League and doing quite well. We'll have to see if he can pick up some time and move up. As you mentioned, he is currently gridded up 17th as the pace car now is getting underway and going to bring this field around the 2.1 mile 10-turn Summit Point Raceway circuit. And as they go through, Summit Point was opened up originally in 1969. It was meant primarily as a replacement for the long raced and well-remembered Marlboro Raceway, which was just outside of Washington, D.C. in what is now Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And it was after just a couple years, had fallen on financial hard times in the early 70s and was purchased by Bill Scott, who was we were talking about Formula Vs earlier, was a Formula V and also a Super V racer. And he and his family owned the track and the entire facility here up until, Bill unfortunately passed away, I believe, in 2015, and his family kept the track in the family up until 2019. And just changed hands about a year and a half ago. But the track has a long history. It's the home of the Washington, D.C. region of the SCCA, and a number of other organizations here run it. Jim, I'm sure you remember PTG, the team that used to run Grand Am and World Challenge efforts for years for BMW. They used to be housed, I'd say, around 5 miles away from Summit Point in Berryville, Virginia, and used this as a test track. And a lot of race teams over the years, including Group 44, have used this as a test track. And as I mentioned during the open, that in the 70s and 80s, a lot of pro races were here. Grand Am used to race here quite a bit. Trans Am raced here as well in the heyday of Trans Am, and I know the ownership at Summit is trying to get Trans Am back over after about a 25-year absence.
Wow, that'd be great. There's nothing like seeing those cars go around.
No, absolutely. And to hear them thunder around there is just absolutely amazing. As the pace car now heads down the pit lane, releasing the field to Miles Crabb, the number 31 car. He's got the pole with Dan Satilli right beside him as they roll out of turn 1. And looks like Dylan Christie might be having some, or actually that's Evan Rackison having some connectivity issues. And he reappears just as they come over the crest of the hill. And green flag is in the air, and getting the jump is Miles Crabb in the 31. Dan Satilli running second, and then side by side we've got Rackison and Christie. Again, Christie, the USF 2000 driver, and Rackison cuts right across the nose of Christie as they go into turn 1, as these cars start to make their way through. And we're going to see them probably straighten out and get in line here as they come down to turn 3 for the very first time. Sitting in 5th right now is Tyler Campbell, and then about a half a car length back to the 25 of Andrew Abbott. We'll have to see, make sure that he can keep that car on track. We know he had some issues during qualifying, as our 2 leaders, Crabb and Satilli, separate themselves as they go under braking into turn 5.
Yeah, it looks to me as though Christie is still a little bit annoyed by that move that Rackison made, and we have car off the track. That looks like Campbell has got himself off at turn 5 there. I wonder if he had any contact. I don't see any. Oh dear, and he's looks like Greg.
Yeah, it looks like Greg Mack getting a little help going around 6A. Let's take a look at this again as they come down the hill, come through the chute at turn 5. And here under braking, does he get the tap? Yes, he does. And that was, I believe that was Andrew Abbott in the 25 car that got into the back of the 27 just on entry at turn 5.
Yep, classic lap 1 move, but this battle between Rackison and Christie still goes on. That looks like Stevie Ray is having a little look at Abbott there. And a lot of smoke on the track.
A lot of brake lockup as these drivers still trying to get some heat in the tires. Looks like they're getting a little harder on the binders and what those tires can handle this early on.
Well, they'll warm up soon enough if you're slamming all over the place, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, as we watch this battle here right now with Andrew Abbott, and is that going in with him? Is that James? I believe is that Jameson Huffman with him right there?
Yes, the 89.
I believe so. Yeah, the 89 of Huffman, who's already made up 4 positions just ahead of him. Zach Burke in the 13, actually quite a bit ahead of him, has made up 3 positions here in a lap and 3/4. As we watch now as our leaders make their way onto the front straight. We've got, again, Miles Crabb, 31, Dan Satilli, and then sitting in 3rd, that green number 46 of Evan Rackison, who to this point has been able to hold off Dylan Christie's white number 22 as they come under braking now going into turn 1, as we watch back from Rackison to Christie as they make their way through.
I think you told the future, didn't you, about that pass at 5, and that's exactly what Huffman did on Abbott's car.
Yeah, that absolutely, and I think Huffman's, he's either, he's had enough time there watching races that, and you can see here as they come down, as they're hugging the right-hand side of the track, it allows you to take a traditional entry into turn 5. But what it also does, if you exit that chute over driver's right, it means you're in most cases giving up a little bit of exit speed coming through the chute, which is the fastest corner. And most drivers, even in the Formula cars, typically gonna go into turn 5 center of track, maybe even a little left of center, and not necessarily throw away turn 5 set up for the carousel, but it's a part of defending to make sure that somebody just doesn't throw it down the inside as well.
Well, Crabb down very emphatically down into the 105, says, oof. Christie very deep on the brakes and outbrakes himself and is back behind Rackson's car. He did go for the move down on the inside there, but was not able to make it stick, but he will try again here as we go through turn 3. Christie just all over the rear of Raxon's car here. I feel like he's a little bit annoyed by that defensive move on the start and is ready to teach Rackison a lesson.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there. And, as they came through turn one, it looked like Raxon washed a little wide. And Christie just not able to take advantage of it. Obviously here, and especially in these cars where you have quite a bit of this aerodynamic downforce, you don't necessarily have the passing opportunities through the carousel that you might have in some of the tin top cars. So you really have some limited passing opportunities. You obviously got going down the long straightaway here, and then in the traditional braking zones at turns 1 and turn 5. And I think we'll have to see what Christie does if he keeps hounding Rackison at this point. All right. Let's look a little bit further back. This is the battle for showing it on the screen as the battle for 7th. I would call it more the battle for 9th, as we've got Abbott, Huffman, and also Jeff Miner in there as well. And look who's also hanging out. It's Stevie Ray in that number 11 car, sitting at the tail end of that field. He's starting to make his way up through the pack as well.
I think Miner had a little bit of an incident there, just on the straight. It looked like he was wiggling the car around. Might have dipped the wheel, but seems to have kept it more or less pointed the right direction.
Yeah, and you'll notice also in that pack, we've got Tyler Campbell just now back behind Stevie Ray, and Campbell had an off, obviously had that off on the very first lap going into turn 5, so he is now trying to make his way back up through the field, and I'm sure at this point he's probably finding making his way through traffic somewhat difficult, as we have this whole line of cars making their way down towards turn 10.
Yeah, well, you would think that he would certainly want to. I mean, he had the pace to be there on qualifying, so maybe he'll be able to make some stuff happen. Raxon and Christie still battling away. Christie all over the rear of Raxon's car, but not quite able to make a move on that occasion. But we're kind of stretching out the front here a little bit as Crab gets away from Satilli, who's getting away from Raxon. I mean, I say getting away. We're still well under a second, but
yeah. I was gonna say we're only a car length or 2 car lengths separating first and second, then about 4 back to Rackison and Dylan Christie. We're only working lap 6 here, about 6.5 minutes into this 20-minute race. I swear this time I will be more cognizant of when the checkered flag is going to be displayed here, as we're on board with Dylan Christie as he makes his run back behind Evan Rackison, and we'll see here if he just gets caught up in the draft. I think also part of the issue here with these cars in particular, as opposed to say the Mazdas, is if you're following too close through some of these sweepers like turn 10, you may see the front end of the car will start to wash out just a little bit. So it might be a cognizant thing to sit back just a little bit here as they come under braking. Oh, and you can see here where Christie's so much later on the brakes than Rackison going into turn 1. He picks up at least a half a car length as he rolls in there.
Yeah, that will certainly help, won't it, being late on the brakes? It is certainly a way that I've found myself inside a guy's car, which is not what you want to do.
No. Typically, these are single-seaters, not two-seaters. That probably is not the way to race here as they make their way into 6A and 6B. Another piece here as you watch as Evan Rackison going all the way to driver's left through turn 6B, the last part of that sweeping right-hand turn, whereas we saw Dylan Christie come underneath just a little bit. I think these cars between the aero and the tires they got underneath them could probably sit at the inside of that section all day long without running their tires off. And it certainly will allow you to make up some ground by running a much shorter distance through the carousel there. So we'll have to keep watching Christie as he runs through. And now, oh, look at this, as Tyler Campbell gets around Brandon Abbott. Now, of course, Brandon's brother Andrew had a lot of issues during qualifying, but Brandon goes wide at turn 10, and then Steve Ray gets ready to pounce as well as they come into 1.
Yeah, it looks like Huffman has had a little bit of an issue there. Just looked like he might have been dropping back some places. Yeah. There he is.
Yeah, and that's
off at 1.
Yeah, and that's Father Justin in the 223 car, and so he has now dropped. He started 8th. He is now sitting back in. Probably started 7th. He's now back in 12th.
I think we got a pretty good battle going between Lundberg and Rolf back there. I've seen them change positions a couple of times. Of course, they're only battling for 14th, but every bit as much a fight as it would be anywhere else on the timing tower. And it looks like Rolf might be able to stay away here. There is Lundberg.
Yeah, it looks like he's opened up a little bit of a margin back to Lundberg as they come into turn 5.
Well, he's a TIG welder, judging by his profile photo there. So if you have any troubles with your car, you can put it right for you.
Right back together. All right, and finally now, Dylan Christie making the move. He's side by side with Evan Rackison as they make the run down the short chute towards turn 3. And Dylan Christie from the outside cements his spot as the third place runner here in Pro Mazda, gets around Evan Rackison on lap number 9. And that little battle has allowed our 2 leaders to separate themselves out just a little bit more. But look at this, Jim, as Dan Santilli has made up a lot of that lost ground and lost time. And at least as they came out of turn 5, had gotten right back up to the gearbox of Miles Crabb. But as they roll out and through that whole, what we call the talent section at Summit Point, not to say that Dan Santilli isn't talented, because he certainly is, but we could see where Miles Crabb was able to open up a margin from turn 6B all the way to turn 8.
Well, Santilli drawing all the way up to that gearbox, as you mentioned, there on the straight, gives Crabb a little bit of room on braking, but yeah, he really did seem to make up some ground on that, although here at the out of turn 1, heading down to the rest of the track, it seemed like Crabb maybe had the measure of Santilli.
Yeah, I would agree. And, it's and Santilli runs a little bit wide there coming out of turn 3. Again, the track comes right back to you, so straighten out the wheel, and there he is. But Santilli looks to be, at least his steering input seemed to be a little bit more, I'd say, drastic. I mean, he just doesn't look as smooth as our leader, Miles Crabb. And, yeah.
Looks like Christie has crashed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dylan Christie went off over at the back in the carousel. Let's take a look at the replay here as they come through turn 5, and as he goes through into 6A, yeah, he just loops the car, gets a little heavy on the throttle on what is really a very slow entry into the carousel there. Car goes around, he gets back underway, but Evan Rackison retakes 3rd position here in Pro Mazda.
I think we got plenty of time left in the race to see that battle continue as we look here at our leaders still going at it. Santilli seems to be maybe trying some slightly different lines to see if he can close up that gap and make something happen on Crabb. And there is Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell with son Jameson here as they go in side by side into turn 1. And again, Campbell, who started off quite a bit further up, he takes over. He now takes over 7th, so drop Jameson Huffman back to 8th.
So Campbell, it's going to be the redo of the Campbell versus Abbott match.
That's
the
what it looks
battle
like.
Now for 6th.
Oh, and look at this as Jameson Huffman comes up the inside of Campbell going into 5. It took 35 minutes, but finally somebody's listening to me. And that is, Jim, that is why you don't go all the way down driver's right going into turn 5. All right.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, so it may not be that Campbell-Abbott battle, at least for another lap, as Campbell's going to have to find another way around Jameson Huffman.
Well, we got a Ray and Abbott battle anyway. So here is Ray all over the rear of Abbott's car, and there is Campbell and Huffman there at the bottom of your screen. They are battling still, and it looks like Campbell will have the measure of Huffman, although Huffman now back around Campbell. I think Campbell might have gone off at 1.
Yeah, I'm saying there he is. He did. He was in the just off the edge of the track, looped the car. He came down into turn 1 to the inside of Jameson Huffman. Let's take a look at it here as they come down. Now Huffman moved over, and then as Huffman moves to the inside, was there contact as they come through? Yes, there was. Jameson Huffman getting into the right rear of Tyler Campbell, and Campbell goes around for the 2nd time today. He's going to have to make up a lot of ground to get back into this race.
Yeah, obviously nobody's hired me to be the steward of this race, but I think I'm going to go racing incident on that one.
Yeah, just Huffman came down the inside and pushed a little wide, and yeah, I mean that's going to happen sometimes. All right, as we go back to our leaders here, Miles Crabb, Dan Santilli, they're coming back up on, looks like up onto the rear of, is that Lundberg, I think, is the next car in line. Interestingly enough, I think Peter Rolf, we were watching that battle between Rolf and Lundberg, and Rolf is falling back behind Lundberg. But here we go, side by side, coming through turn 5, going into 6A. It is still Miles Crabb, the red number 31. He manages to hold on against Dan Satilli and gets back on the throttle. That is I'll tell you, that is a very difficult place to make a pass. You know, you come into turn, if you don't get the pass done going into turn 5, it's real hard to finish things up on the exit of 5 going into 6, because the run into 6 is so short. And Miles Crabb showed how difficult it can be to make a pass there that last time by.
Something has befallen Stevie Ray. He's had an incident and jumped to the pits, so something terrible has happened to his car. Look here from the P2 car of Satilli forward at Crabb's gearbox. Satilli's got to know that time is ticking down here.
Yeah, let's take a look here as they came through turn 3 and make their way down. And let's see if Brandon Abbott had, oh, there we go, as Stevie Ray gets into the back. Was that Wozencroft, I think? I think that was Wozencroft that they were coming up on. But we're going to jump back to the leaders, and we've got Tyler Campbell. He's in the pits as well. Looks like his day may be done here as we jump back now to the front of the field with Miles Crabb and Dan Satilli. And
yeah, you know, like I was saying, they got to know that time is ticking down here, so Satilli doesn't have a whole lot of time to hang around. If he wants to make something happen, it's got to happen.
Yeah, and so fast laps so far there have been in the 105 range. We've got just about a little bit more than 3 minutes left, so three laps, I'd say, left to go here. So there is not a lot of time for Dan Satilli to keep playing follow the leader. He's going to have to move up and suck it up and make a move here, because there ain't a lot of time left.
Well, you could, maybe get a few tips from Huffman on how to make that pass at 5.
Yeah, well, you'll notice here Miles Crabb covered just a little bit going through there, and and again, you see it right there. Satilli looks like he keeps trying to make up ground coming out of turn 5, and when he cranks the wheel over that much, he's actually losing a little bit of ground on the run into 6A. I would probably let the wheel open up a little bit more, and he'd get a little closer as they would come up through the carousel and into turn 10 here. And our leaders, they're coming up on some traffic, and based on the speed here, and you can see right now Russ Lundberg, yeah, he was the one involved in that incident with Stevie Ray, and he's got some damage to the left front wing. Our leaders, they're coming up on the 129 of Russ Lundberg, and I think just ahead of Lundberg, Wayne Buttermore in the 73. And I thought maybe they'd get to him before they came down into turn 1. But now our leaders are going to have to sneak right underneath that car, now coming through turn 3. And let's take a look. Actually, that was Lundberg that they went through, and then Buttermore's the next car in line. And they're side by side with Buttermore coming down through turn 5. And they both managed to clear Buttermore right at the apex of that corner. It is still Miles Crabb with the lead, Dan Satilli running in second. And next car in line, Tyler Campbell, the number 37 car. He's back out on track. I'm trying to see how far ahead he may be. But it looks like our leaders aren't going to have to worry probably until at least the end of the front straight here. But as they come down, they cross the stripe to complete lap 16, start lap number 17, and we're looking at just a little bit over 2 minutes to go. Looks like it's going to be 2 more laps.
And there is the move for the leads until he pulls out to the inside, and he's going to still have the inside, but I think Crabb is going to have him on the geometry here, but perhaps that is a forecast of what Satilli intends to do if he can stay close enough over the next lap. Let's hope, for his sake, that he's listened to your advice, Greg, and has learned a little bit more about how to drive this section of the track right here. You were talking about 5 and then 6A into the carousel. Let's see how he does.
You can see that little tap of the brakes right there, and this time by, I think he opened up that line quite a bit more, but almost every lap right here, coming through 6B, 7, and into 8, you'll notice that Crabb ends up making a much better run there. I think the low speed handling here for the Crab car much better than Satilli. That Satilli always seems to be losing at least a half a car length to a car length and a half in that bottom section of the course, and it makes it more difficult for him to get up close enough as they come down under braking into turn one. Once again, though, he steps to the inside. Can he get it done? They're side by side going into turn two, but once again, this is where if Crab can keep the car up in line with Miles Crab, he's got position, probably with Satilli, he's got position going into turn three, and as they go through, there you go, with Satilli caught to the outside, as they head down the hill, what is normally the fastest turn on this course, inches apart between those two cars, and now with a brake lockup, it is Miles Crab, and Satilli runs wide.
Oh boy, that was just nail biting there, wasn't it? Crab, just as you said, had a little bit of a lockup there into turn 5, and then Satilli went outside as he headed over to 6A, and I think that was all just those cars, just trying to stay out of one another, as Abbott and this car are not able to do, but I think just trying to show one another a little bit of sportsmanship, which, as viewers, we certainly appreciate.
Yeah, it looked like Satilli was trying to give him a little bit of ground. As our winner tonight in the in the RaceVoice.com Pro Mazda race, it is Miles Crab. Dan Satilli, he's going to finish second. Evan Rackison finishes in third. Dylan Christie, who had that off early in the race, he manages to hold on to fourth place. Zach Burke will cross the stripe. He finishes in fifth. Andrew Abbott, Jamison Huffman crossing the stripe. And I think right behind Jamison is going to be Father Justin, with Brandon Abbott, Andrew Wozencroft rounding out the top 10. And there he is, your winner tonight, Miles Crab.
Well, he came by it outright, didn't he? I mean, what a battle. It certainly wasn't for, he had to fight for it. I mean, Satilli was all over him, all race wrong. If he had put a foot wrong, that would have been that.
Yeah, exactly. And he ran a very strong, very consistent race. I guess is probably the best way that I could put it. And when Satilli pressured him with a 1 lap to go or 2 laps to go, Crab, he stood strong. He had that brake lockup going into turn 5, was able to recover. And I think you put it right there. I mean, it was gentlemanly racing there, as Dan Satilli, I think, wanted to give Crab as much room as he needed, to his detriment, ending up putting the car off track drivers right on that very last lap. And, it unfortunately cost him the win, but a great race between two great racers.
Well, Greg, it looks like we have a couple of racers looking to have a chat with us. Whom do you think we should speak to first?
Why don't we bring in Evan Rackison, our third place finisher tonight?
Do it.
All right, Evan Rackison, great run tonight. You had a great battle going on this evening with Dylan Christie. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your race?
Hey guys, good evening. Yeah, pretty interesting race. Kind of challenging conditions, actually. I think I practiced in a little bit cooler weather, so the car was feeling a little bit slick out there. But yeah, those guys had some great pace, out-qualified me. I was lucky to get by Dylan on the start, and he was right on my tail the whole time. I knew that he wasn't going to give up that fight. So it was kind of fun. We had a couple back and forth. So I crossed him up once or twice, and eventually he got the better of me, but looked like he made a little mistake. So I wasn't upset about that. Little redemption from last time, maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to say that after the last outing, that might have been a little bit of redemption for you. Great race tonight, Evan. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, this time I'd like to, of course, thank Stevie Ray for hosting this event. And I'd also like to shout out my iRacing endurance racing team, Red Mist Racing. We did the Daytona 24 and the Bathurst 12-hour the other day, and we're planning for Sebring coming up.
It looks like you've got a full schedule ahead of you. Great talking to you tonight, Evan, and hopefully we will see you next week at Laguna Seca.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Same to you. Have a great night. That was Evan Rackison, finished third tonight in Pro Mazda. Jim, it looks like we've got our second place finisher, Dan Satilli, up for you.
You bet. Let's get him. There he is. Sorry, I just grabbed you in the middle of a sentence there, Dan.
All good.
How are you doing? How was your race?
Good. Oh, it was a pretty good race. Can't complain about second. keeping up with Miles the entire time, and I felt like I was in the catbird seat. Even though I was in second, I hung with him, figured out how the push was going to be in the middle part of the track, the slow turns, and managed it well, and was right on his bumper and kept setting him up, getting ready for the last lap down into turn one, where I thought it was the best opportunity to do it, and just screwed up the last corner coming to the final lap, so I didn't have as good a run on him as I wanted to, and trying to make a move then down into the first hairpin, just went in a little too deep, and off I went. But tons of fun, had a lot of fun with Miles. Hope we put on a good show.
Yeah, absolutely, you did. I mean, it looked like a great race out there. We sure enjoyed it. But yeah, it's like you said, you seemed like you were trying this and trying that, and it just didn't ever seem to quite. Any one of those moves could have paid off, but it just seems like it just didn't quite get lucky enough.
Yeah, just I thought the last lap was gonna be the best time to do it if I passed him. I mean, the draft here was enough to keep pace, and Miles through practice had been a little faster than me. So it was everything I anticipated, and I worked out the way I wanted it to. Just if you plan to do it, make your move on the last lap, you got to make it happen, and I didn't make it happen today.
Well, you did make a great race happen. I mean, you really put on a performance out there, and so I don't think you have anything to be ashamed about. In fact, I would be over the moon if I had that kind of result.
Thanks. Yeah, and I got to say thanks to my spotter, Jacob Smith, Stevie Ray for hosting this series, Race Voice for being the sponsor, along with Apex Racing TV for putting on the broadcast, and Race Engineering. They helped me in real life in my Spec Miata, and I like to think they build a fast virtual engine as well, and definitely showed today.
Well, fantastic. Daniel Satilli, he is your second place finisher. Congratulations on P2, and looking forward to seeing you out there again.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, first place finisher, Miles Crabb. Mr. Crabb, sir, congratulations on your win. How are you feeling?
I have no words to describe what I'm tired. May be correct. That was 20 qualifying laps or 19 qualifying laps. Ever how many laps we did that?
Yeah, Satilli didn't let up on you at all, did he?
No, that's how you have to do it at Summit Point, because there's one place to pass. You can make it work in two places, but it's really turn one. That's about it. And I mean, I think average speed around this place is 117 or something for like a Continental. So these things have got to be up around 120. So it's just, there's nothing. It's constant qualifying laps, and this is I've run 2-hour stints in the Daytona 24 on here and not been as sweaty as I am right now.
Oh man, yeah. Well, okay, so take us to the driver's seat. What's going on in your mind? So you've got, let's say, 3-4 laps to go. Satilli's all over you. He has been the entire race. You guys are managing traffic. He's trying a few combinations back there. So what are you thinking? How do you handle it?
I noticed pretty early on that if I had more than 0.5 of a second lead, he wasn't getting to my inside, or if he wasn't getting close enough that it wasn't going to be full sin to get by me. So game plan number one was have a 0.6 of a second lead on the last lap. And that was pretty close. I'm trying to remember that last lap exactly. I didn't get a good run through turn 5, and he didn't either. I slid the rear end, and he understeered. And he ended up getting right. He got up better than the lap before, and we ran all the way around the turn 3, and I was really confident we were crashing in turn 3 because I was not backing out. I was pretty sure that I could hold it through the entry to the corner, but on exit may have been fun. And we survived and made it to turn 7 through the chute, and we both locked up. I was just on the inside, and he was on the outside, and he slid off. So once he got to my, I gave him the inside. I didn't try to defend because I wanted that run into turn 3 on the hopes that I would get a better run out of turn 1 on the last lap. And I really didn't on the last lap. The lap before I did, but it was just kind of once he was beside me, it was, oh my God, don't crash.
Well, it was definitely a nail biter, and was certainly exciting from our position, just watching it. In our role as commentators and fans. So thank you so much for that, and congratulations, as we say, on the win. What are you looking forward to for the next race?
I don't even. What is the next track?
Going to be Laguna Seca next week.
Oh yeah.
Laguna Seca is a good track. It's about like this one where you have to go full tilt the entire time. I'm going to probably look forward to not spinning into the corkscrew like I did the last time I had a race there. But
always a good plan. Always a good plan.
A goal to which we can all aspire.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Miles, for stopping to have a chat with us. We sure do appreciate it. And again, congratulations on your first place finish, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thanks for broadcasting. I got required to send a shout out to my grandma Bobo and my sister Kim this time. So I'm just going to pull a Scott Pruitt and say hi to my family at home and get out of here.
I'm sure Bobo and Kim are proud that you took the win tonight. Miles, congratulations. That was Miles Crabb, our winner tonight in Pro Mazda. And congratulations to both of our winners this evening. You have been watching the Ray Esports Spring Tour from Summit Point Raceway. As we mentioned, next week, next Tuesday night, 8:40 p.m., we're going to be at Laguna Seca. We're going to have the Pro Mazdas, the Mazda MX-5s are going to take the week off, and then we will have the Spec Racer Fords. And of course, make sure to join us in 2 weeks at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we're going to have the championship races for all three of these classes. You don't want to miss it. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Jim Hodson, and I want to thank, of course, Dennis Branch, our producer with Apex Racing TV, for another great night of racing. We'll see you next Tuesday.